Welcome to the Mixing Babies and Business podcast. I'm your host, Amy Lynch. I'm covering all things parenthood, business, flexible, and remote work with kids. Think of it as your virtual village where you can tune into stories from other business and community leaders who also happen to be parents negotiating for their needs, taking up space, and navigating the future of work. Season 6 is sponsored by the Mixing Babies and Business Changemaker program for people who want to do things differently, create an impact, and advocate for primary caregivers and their families along the way. Sign up to learn more at mixingbabiesandbusiness.com/changemaker. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, like, follow, and leave a review online. It helps other parents find the podcast. Martin Barnes is a parent of 6-year-old twins, founder of 8 Seconds to Connect, and graphic artist at ThisCityArt. With 20 years of experience in design, film, advertising, as a guest speaker, creative director, trainer, and lecturer, Martin is focused on supporting C-suite leaders with their messaging and delivery. In this second mini episode, we talk about intergenerational living, what it was like relocating from China to England, and what would happen if we had more accessible business spaces. Let's get into it. And I don't want to be negative about Toastmasters, but I just want to let people know I've never been to one of those since becoming a parent, especially because they're usually at nighttime, which is after the bedtime. You did mention intergenerational living there, and I want to say that one talk that I did at Creative Mornings, my folks came over before I went. I had to be there for 8 a.m. and I wouldn't have gotten out of the house with a 10-month-old and a not quite 3-year-old if they hadn't helped me, because my husband was in China at the time traveling for work. But I said yes to the opportunity thinking, I don't know if it'll come around again. But you mentioned staying with your parents and having that support. So can you give us a bit of an idea of how your parents are involved in your workflows at all, or how you've adapted your routines during the week as a parent, living a different lifestyle than you were, like you said, at that moment when you had the epiphany of, I need to make my life more than just my work right now?
Yeah. So I lived in China for 16 years, and my wife's Chinese. The kids were born over there. And so we came back to the UK for 5 weeks at the end of 2019. We had a 5-week vacation. We had a flight back to China at 27th of January 2020, and then 2020 happens, COVID, China goes into lockdown, and we can't go back. It wasn't until the beginning of 2023 that China opened its doors again. So I'm in my mid-40s and I'm back at my parents' house with my wife and kids. Come home, mum and dad. Hey, we're staying. And thankfully, they were very, me being away for 16 years and then coming back, they were very accommodating. And they, watching my daughters run around my mum and dad and how much energy they give my parents and how much joy and fun, and the fact that my mum gets to do, lots of school reading, and she's an ex-teacher, and I think and also we have the space, so we're not living on top of each other, so super fortunate and really grateful and feel very lucky. And I never want to abuse that sort of situation, but to be able to sort of phone my dad up and be like, oh, a meeting's overrun, can you do the school trip? Can you do the school pickup? And he's like, yeah, okay, because he's retired and he likes it, and he likes a bit of banter with the girls. And so the downside of that is that my Chinese mother-in-law is missing out. And we are living like an Asian family unit. Multi-generational living is much more common in Asia than it is, say, in England. And we're getting that here in the West, whereas my mother-in-law is missing out. We keep inviting her over, but she won't come for some reason or other. But it is amazing. I think more people should do it, because you have to respect each other. You have to and your parents have to respect that you're now an adult, but you have to respect that you are still at your parents' house. But in terms of sharing responsibilities, sharing expenses, looking after each other. I mean, my mum gets me to drive her into town all the time. I'm a taxi driver, and she will take me into town. I don't care if you're working, I want to go in. And I'm like, okay, because I can't really complain. But it's that mutual respect. And I think the fact that we coexist, and I often describe, we're more like flatmates than I'm not back at mum and dad's house. We're just cohabiting. And I have actually found through these sorts of conversations that a lot of people I know are doing it. And everybody's like, it's amazing. There is so many benefits for the senior members of the family to be around the youngest members, and to give the middle members a bit of space to kind of go and work and go and do stuff. So I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, my partner's from another country as well. And what we found was when we had our first one in London, we had no family nearby other than a cousin. And you kind of have to recreate your own village. And it's not really easy to do that or affordable to do that if you can't find people that you trust. So I have seen a few things popping up here in Canada where it's more play groups for kids, but they're at a retirement residence, or they're trying to connect different age groups together to solve similar challenges around socialization for the kids and also mental health and well-being for the older generations. I really feel like hopefully we'll see more and more of that. Some of the things that I advocate for are more parent-friendly business spaces, like getting baby change facilities in startup incubator spaces, or those locations where you say you want to serve women founders and you really want them to start their venture there, but you're not exactly making it easy for them to show up as they are, especially if they have a young family. Do you have any opinions on advocacy or activism around creating more inclusive business spaces?
I mean, not so. How would I've been remote working since 2013. So we went on a road trip to Inner Mongolia before kids or anything like that. I didn't tell any of my clients I was going away, and I got all my work done. Nobody noticed. So I came back from that and I just sacked off my office. I was like, I'm not paying rent to sit in a shoebox and write emails. So I've been remote ever since. And I remember to answer your question, when the kids came in Beijing, there's so much choice of food, and we used to eat out a lot because it's really affordable, really tasty. As soon as the kids come, I didn't care what restaurant we went to. All I cared about was getting a double buggy in, and could I go into the changing rooms, or could I go and change a nappy or a diaper somewhere? And then if they do have changing facilities, they're all in the ladies. So I was sort of doing all these balancing acts, trying to change twins and do all this sort of stuff, and that made me really think, like, the food could have been cardboard boxes. I could have eaten anything. My priorities completely shifted around, can I get my kids in and can I take care of them? And that was just going to go and eat. And so I think for like where you spend so much more time at work, there is so much to be done in terms of letting adults function. Because work doesn't actually take that long if you get into a deep focus. So let's say you're in a space, a workspace for, I don't know, 6 hours, where you really create value is probably half that time. The rest of it's distractions and conversations and all that sort of stuff. So for a workspace to be catered more to let adults function at a really high level when they need to, that would be a total game changer. And I'm sure a lot of really great work is happening around that, but I'm sure there's always more that can be done, because you can't let adults not operate as professionals just because they have kids. I mean, that's crazy.
Thanks again to Martin for speaking with me about the move that he made with his family from China to England and how he's been going about remote work since becoming a parent. The next episode will feature the final part of our conversation, where we'll talk about what kind of professional development Martin is loving these days, as well as the kind of future that he hopes his daughters will grow up in. Check out his work at 8secondstoconnect.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, or follow and leave a review. It helps other parents around the world find the podcast. Connect with me online and access your parent-friendly, entrepreneurship, flexible, and remote work resources at mixingbabiesandbusiness.com. Thanks for listening.